Imagine a world where people were the size of skyscrapers. Does it sound like a fairy tale? But what if it is not a fairy tale at all? What if the footprints of giants are not fiction, but an encrypted message from the distant past? It is no secret that legends of various peoples about giants who once inhabited the earth have survived to this day. Homer wrote about the one-eyed Cyclops and the treacherous giants who lay in wait for Odysseus's companions in Balaclava Bay. Our ancestors told of giants such as Svyatogor and Dobrynya Nikitich. And here is a detail. In Russian epics, unlike the legends of many other peoples, relations with giants were quite peaceful and friendly. They fought monsters, rescued prisoners, and protected principalities from raids. Superhumans, aren't they? Have you ever wondered why there are so many legends about giants around the world? India, Egypt, China, ancient Greece, Scandinavia. Everyone talks about giants who created the first civilizations. The Aztecs believed that they were the ones who built the pyramids. The priests of ancient Sumer and Babylon believed that they received knowledge from giants who survived the flood. Coincidences? Or maybe there is something more hidden behind these ancient myths. If giants lived, then where did they disappear to? I suggest starting our investigation with giant footprints. Such prints are found all over the planet. For example, in China, not far from the village of Pingyia in the Guizhou region, feet imprinted in stone were discovered. The footprint is so clear that it was apparently left here quite recently. Its size is amazing. It is 2.5 times larger than an ordinary human footprint. What is this if not evidence of the existence of giants? Apparently, the height of a giant must be at least 5 meters. There are also larger species. The most famous of them was discovered in South Africa by a local farmer at the beginning of the last century. The length of the foot is 1 meter 28 centimeters. Such a trace could have been left by a giant about 10 meters tall. Perhaps a skillful forgery, but scientists claim that according to the official chronology, the trace froze hundreds of millions of years ago when the rock was soft. The second fact that ensures the existence of giants is ancient stories. There is a phrase in the Bible, "In those days there were giants on the earth." And the story of David and Goliath, remember? Goliath, it turns out, was a descendant of a giant. Moses' scouts said that in Palestine they saw such giants who themselves looked like locusts. Do you have to be so huge to perceive them like that? It may be an exaggeration, but the famous scientist Carl Linnaeus generally believed that Adam and Eve were 40 and 35 meters tall, respectively. The Quran also talks about giants who were taller than the tallest palm tree, and Noah's Ark was built by a giant named Saraba. In Yemen, ruins of a city mentioned in the Quran were even found, where people of enormous stature may have lived. And the Vedas also mention a race of giants. Could all this be just fairy tales? Fact number 3. What do historical records say? Josephus Flavius, a famous historian who lived in the 1st century, not only believed but claimed that giants existed. He described them as beings with bodies and faces so unusual that seeing them was a blessing, but hearing their voices was terrifying. And in the 2nd century, someone reported a discovery in March. The skeleton of a man who had grown more than 5 meters, preserved in excellent condition. Could all this really be true? Let's look at fact number 4. Testimonies from around the world. Russian chronicles say that a giant 4 meters tall fought in the Battle of Kulikovo Field. The Arab traveler Ibn Fadlan wrote that he saw a 6-meter skeleton at a reception with the Khazar king. Turgenev and Korolenko themselves saw the same skeleton in Switzerland. In a museum, in 1577, it was found in the cave of the Dr. Platno. The chronicles of history mention how the military leader Canon found the skeleton of a giant 20 meters away and sent it to the Pope. Why is there not a single similar exhibit in museums? The 5th fact is the objects of giants. Books, rings, guns, swords, steps, doors. In museums you can find a large number of giant guns, but not a single sword. Historians explain this by the fact that swords were allegedly used by giants for ritual purposes. Well, maybe that was true. Here are some more mysterious finds of the last century, confirmed by archaeologists. In 1899, miners in the Ruhr region in Germany discovered fossilized skeletons of people from 210 to 240 centimeters tall. And in 1890, in Egypt, archaeologists found a stone sarcophagus containing mummies. It should be noted right away that the scientific world is trying its best to hush up this information. After all, it does not fit at all into the foundations of the world that history textbooks have been describing to us since childhood. But archaeological finds and ancient legends only confirm the fact that a race of giants lived on Earth. Burial places, and more often the remains of dead giant people, have been found on the planet for a long time. They are excavated all over the world, both on land and underwater in the seas and oceans. Another confirmation of this is the find in Yakutia. A group of independent researchers has been studying this issue for many years and has formed a clear picture of what really happened on our planet 12 to 20,000 years ago. And this is not so long ago. The height of giants during life ranged from 4 to 12 meters. In addition to great physical strength, they also had phenomenal mental abilities. Version of the lost civilization of the Atlanteans? Is this the mysterious civilization of the Atlanteans, which some consider mythical, while others really existed and died? Japanese scientists have already discovered the remains of a civilization similar to Atlantis on the ocean floor. Researchers suggest that it was this civilization of giants that built pyramids not only in Egypt, but throughout the entire Earth. The total number of pyramids erected by them reaches more than 600. The construction was carried out in a strictly specified geometric sequence. The pyramids could be erected using a simple technology that is still used today, with the help of ordinary formwork. Then it turns out that the blocks were not moved over long distances, but a strong concrete composition was poured into wooden forms. The purpose of the pyramids was associated with cosmic energy, the use of which is still unknown to us. Later, another civilization of people, the Egyptians, began to use pyramids and worship their gods. The Egyptians made tombs for the pharaohs out of them. Thus, the Egyptians themselves did not build the pyramids. In fact, the pyramids remained as evidence that a race of giants lived on Earth in ancient times. A lot of documentary evidence about the race of giants has been obtained from various sources. We will cite only some of them. 1. We have already talked about the finds in the form of buried people from 210 to 240 centimeters. Let's move on. 2. Ivan Sanderson, a famous zoologist with a worldwide reputation, once shared an interesting story from a letter he received from a certain Alan McShire. The author of the letter worked as a bulldozer operator in 1950 during the construction of a road in Alaska and reported that workers had discovered 2 huge fossilized skulls, vertebrae and leg bones in one of the burial mounds. The height of the skulls reached 58 centimeters, and the width was 30 centimeters. The ancient giants had a double row of teeth and disproportionately flat heads. The vertebrae, as well as the skulls, were 3 times larger than those of modern humans. The length of the shin bones ranged from 150 to 180 centimeters. 3. But in 1950, a fragment of a huge skull, 45 centimeters high, was discovered in diamond mines in South Africa. Above the brow ridges were 2 strange protrusions resembling small horns. Anthropologists who got their hands on the find determined the age of the skull to be about 9 million years. 4. Here's another interesting fact. One of the clay tablets of ancient Babylon says that the priests of the Babylonian state received all their astronomical knowledge from giants taller than 4 meters who lived in South Asia. In South Africa, on the Okavango River, the Aborigines tell of giants who lived in these places in the past. One of their legends says that the giants were endowed with incredible strength. With one hand, they blocked the flow of rivers. Their voices were so loud that they could be heard from one village to another. When one of the giants coughed, the birds were blown away as if by the wind. When hunting, they covered hundreds of kilometers a day, and killed elephants and hippopotamuses were easily thrown onto their shoulders and carried home. Their weapons were bows made from palm trunks. Even the earth carried them with difficulty. 5. And according to the legend of the Incas, during the reign of Inca, the 12th Ayatarco Cuso, people of enormous stature arrived in the country from the ocean on huge reed rafts. Even the tallest Indian only reached their knees. The giants' hair fell on their shoulders, and their faces were beardless. Some of them wore animal skins, others went completely naked. Moving along the coast, they devastated the country. After all, each of them ate more at a time than 50 people could eat. Can you imagine? 6. According to legend, during the conquest of America, the Spaniards discovered a skeleton of amazing dimensions in one of the Aztec temples, as much as 20 meters. And what did they do? They sent it as a gift to the Pope. Just like that, they just took it and gave it away. What happened to this find later is unknown. 6. Here are some more archaeological finds and new theories. Archaeologist Whitney, who worked for the U.S. government in the early 19th century, examined a skull found in a mine in Ohio. And it was the skull of a giant, 2 meters in diameter. And here's something else. There is an opinion that the pyramids were not originally built in Egypt. They were created to harness cosmic energy. The Egyptians simply adapted them to their needs, making them burial chambers for the pharaohs. It turns out that the pyramids are evidence of giants. All this raises only one question. Could such giants exist at all, and why did they die? Scientists put forward different versions of the possibility that a race of giants existed on our planet. One of the hypotheses states that gravity on Earth at that time was completely different, as was atmospheric pressure. In such physical conditions, giant people could live and function normally. The death of giants could have been caused by a global catastrophe. As a result of a large-scale disaster, climate changes could have occurred, which we observe in modern human history. The author of one of the versions, Dr. Carl Bohm, believes that in the distant past, natural conditions favored increased human growth, and then they changed dramatically, and people became smaller. Optimal genetic development, says Bohm, is when everything embedded in the DNA of an organism develops entirely due to favorable external conditions. In his opinion, before the Great Flood, the ozone layer was much thicker, and after it, only 1/7 remained. The reduction of the ozone layer led to a weakening of protection from solar radiation, which affected both plants and animals, and naturally, humans. Why are the facts of the existence of a race of giants hushed up with so many artifacts found? Why are the giant bones of giants not exhibited in any museum in the world? The only answer that some scientists find is that it was done on purpose. Unique finds confirming the existence of a race of giants on Earth are hidden from view. Otherwise, Darwin's theory of evolution would have completely fallen apart. People would have to change their views on the entire history of mankind and its appearance on Earth. For the scientific world, such a turn is apparently undesirable. What do you think about this? We would be glad to hear your opinion.